It's an excellent panel to kind of talk through some of the issues around poverty and some of the key work that they're doing as well. So we kind of I'll take you through the different panelists. We have Professor Ute Dubois, who's Associate Professor at ISG International Business School in Paris. Her main research topic is around energy poverty, with a focus on public policy analysis and qualitative social research. Her research is focused on the question of identification of energy poor households and the relations between energy poverty and health. And she's a co-editor of the edited volume Perspectives on Energy Poverty in Post-Communist Europe, published by Routledge in 2022. So thank you for joining us. And we also have Dr. Eduardo Blanco, who's a project manager with Energy Cities, where he manages projects related to energy poverty, like Power Horizon 2020, and positive and clean energy districts. Eduardo is also an environmental engineer specializing in urban sustainability and has a master's degree in sustainable transportation and planning and a PhD in sustainable urban design and environmental sciences. Thank you, Eduardo. And we also have Dora Biondani, who works for Climate Alliance as a senior project manager for the Energy Poverty Advisory Hub and the leading EU initiative run by the European Commission at the request of the European Parliament to eradicate energy poverty and accelerate the just energy transition of the European local governments. So Dora holds a master's degree in engineering and an MBA in energy and sustainability. Yes, great. And we also have Dr. Vladimir Chaznev, who's an executive director of the Centre for Energy Efficiency, ENEFECT, and the official representative of the Municipal Energy Efficiency Network, Eco-Energy in Bulgaria. He's a member of the advisory board of the International Passive House Conference and of the UNECE group of experts on energy efficiency. He has been a team leader in more than 30 international cooperation projects, including leading Eco-Energy's contribution to the EnergyMeasures project as well. So thank you as well for joining us. And finally, we have Dr. Paola Velasco-Herrejón, who's a Marie Skłodowska-Curie Actions Research Fellow at the University of Oslo, Norway. Her research adopts an interdisciplinary perspective to examine socio-technical aspects of the global energy transition and decarbonisation, focusing on well-being, energy poverty, participation, power, and social justice. So she's also the co-editor of the recently published book, Living with Energy Poverty, Perspectives from the Global North and South. So thank you all for joining us. I suppose we kind of just open up discussions and we can just ask maybe if the panelists could give us a little bit of an overview of your current research and what you're interested in, and maybe if you have some thoughts on the work we've heard from energy poverty, how does it relate to your own work as well? So maybe Professor Dubois, if I can start with yourself.
Yes, thank you. So, thank you for having me here today. In terms of energy poverty research, what I'm currently working on is still on the identification of energy poor households, especially in the context of France. Currently, I'm working with the municipality of Paris, which is which has started a program of identification of energy poor households. So it's a program where they want to propose small measures, but also global renovations in certain areas, which are deprived areas of Paris. So here there is really a challenge in the city of Paris of identification of households. So this is really the common topic for the municipality. And in terms of other research topics, I've been working recently on energy poverty in Georgia with a capability approach to test the role of capabilities in energy poverty dynamics in Georgia. And I've worked as well on social housing, so energy poverty in social housing in different European countries and approaches of social landlords to alleviate energy poverty.
Thank you. Great. We have in the book, we have a contribution from Georgia as well, so it's a quite an interesting case study there. So, yeah, great, thank you. Eduardo, would you like to explain a little bit more about it?
Yeah, sure. Thanks for the invitation for being here today. So as Roger said briefly, I'm working on a project also Horizon 2020 that's called Power Up. I'm coordinating this project. It's very complementary from what you have been doing on energy measures. We have also the deployment of energy measures to alleviate energy poverty in 5 pilot cities. But we have a different objective, that's to find business models to integrate households that are in vulnerable situations in the production of renewable energy. So we try to find a business model with them, so we do co-creation workshop with these households to define a better business model, and so they become prosumers and they can pay less on their energy bills. These with a very important push from public authorities, so we try to create this business model with a strong social agenda, and so we need a strong policy and public support for doing it. I think the good example, the best example of this project by now is the ICLO case that won one of the winners of the European Social Innovation Competition from last year. So the vulnerable households, they are being part of an energy cooperative that's EcoPower, and the city is pre-funding their shares on these energy cooperatives, and the households, they repay this funding monthly with their savings, and after they can remain in the energy cooperative, and the city uses this as a rolling fund for deploying and engaging each time more and more households in the program. So we have 5 models, very different one from the others in this specific project.
Thank you, it's great. Thanks so much.
Let's divide because COVID is back. So I'm Dora Biondani from the Energy Poverty Advisory Hub. As said, I'm very happy to be here, also because we have ongoing collaboration with different actors here in the room. At the Energy Poverty Advisory Hub, we are supporting a municipality all across Europe, trying to give different inputs. The core principle is the support in terms with direct assistance. That means that municipalities are paired with a local expert and then supported by EPA as connection across Europe. And this is quite broad. They can ask advice spacing from the development of behavioral change strategies to improve diagnosis to then develop more energy communities, one-stop shop, whatever they think it's more suitable at local level for address energy poverty. We then support the other municipalities that didn't have access to the direct support through courses that are online for them to understand better the different dimensions of energy poverty, and providing handbooks to guide in their analysis. But the core principle for us, and this is the reason why we always very welcome to participate to these events, is to strengthen the network of actors working on it. So to try as much as possible to capitalize on the different experience we developed through these amazing reports and all the different implemented solutions that worked at the municipal level, and try to exchange ideas in order to do not replicate or reinvent the wheels, but just build on each other's experience.
So hello from myself as well. My name is Alexander, Deputy Director of Center for Energy Efficiency in Bulgaria. And our mission is generally to support energy efficiency policies at national and local level, especially in the building sector. And obviously renovation policies are the most sustainable way to counteract and mitigate the impacts of energy poverty. Hence our interest toward the topic. And having that in mind, we've been extremely lucky to have support from the European Commission for multiple projects besides energy measures to further develop and support these policies in Bulgaria, engaging all stakeholders, I would say, and try to focus on different aspects. both on the impact of renovation on mitigation of energy poverty, but also on promoting sustainable financing schemes, investing in technical innovations, starting, maintaining communication and engaging campaigns and working with the end users, which is extremely important, and it is obviously the focus of EnergyMeasures project. So with that experience at hand, I trust that the results that we can present now during this conference are quite convincing, and it shows how important it is to get that kind of international networking and opportunities to share knowledge. So I'm really grateful to be here.
Well, just very briefly, I'm Paola, as you know, my experience in energy poverty is probably much lesser than you. Although it's been quite nice to be part of the EnergyMeasures. So I was working on poverty programs in Mexico, and that included energy poverty. So I kind of like slept in the whole south, and then going to Ireland and experiencing energy poverty actually myself, and also engaging it through the program and with, of course, different countries. And then, of course, doing together the book that gathered all the experiences, research and work from different people in other places. And now engaging within the only indigenous community in Europe, the Sami in Norway, again with a relationship with energy. So in a way, that would be the spaces that I've been in, and would love to start the conversation.
Thank you, Paola. And actually, we might, while you still have the mic, I might ask you another question. And we're just thinking in relation to identifying energy poor households, and maybe say reflecting on your experience as well in Mexico. What do you think are the key challenges to identification, and how do you identify households? That's a complex question, but if you can maybe say give some insights from your own experience.
Well, I guess I think in Mexico, as it was in Ireland, it was very similar in everything that has to do with poverty can be very associated with shame, and therefore it was very hard of course, to self-identify and identify others, and it's also in a way it's a judgment that can be so that was probably the hardest
Absolutely, no, that's great. I think that as Tom, I would say all of our experiences. Stigma and kind of shame can kind of frame how people interact with organisations as well. I wonder if any of our other panelists would like to maybe sort of remote that or maybe develop on that a little bit more about from your own experience about identification. What would you see as being the most important things to factor in?
So what we experienced with our municipality is that some municipality decided to move away from the terminology of energy poverty, exactly for the aim to engage more the different vulnerable consumers. One of the examples is the municipality of Milan, that after a long work on their energy advisors portal, that in the end it's a one-stop shop, and the difficulties to engage, they start moving talking more about energy welfare or energy wellness, putting the different vulnerable consumers in a more open position. So this is one of the solutions identified. That is clear across all our experts that most of the time when they enter households and they start to investigate door-to-door condition of energy poverty, it never comes out to the terminology. It's always used they know what they are looking for, but the person is, of course, approached in a different way.
Yes, I agree. There's a lot of stigma associated with the concept of energy poverty, and so asking people whether they are energy poor is generally not a good idea. So we have to find words to ask them what type of difficulties they face. And so, yes, the challenge is what is the entry point into the topic. And sometimes you have just a few seconds to get the attention of people. If you see people in front of their home, they are just passing. And so how do you get their attention, and how do you start a conversation with them? And then the second thing is that for me, once you have their attention, how do you convince them that it's worthwhile being identified? Because nobody wants to be signaled or identified. This is a very bad word also, signaling. And so it's important to be very careful, and on the other hand, you don't have so much time. And some people will not be willing to engage in the conversation, and so that's really a big problem, because they are not asking for help by themselves, and if you go to see them, they are not necessarily reacting immediately the way you would like them to be.
No, absolutely. Actually, one of the observations that we made in our own efforts was maybe say to not deal head on, but say kind of take a sideways approach and sort of say, if you know somebody who might need our help, will you pass on the information? And that was a way of kind of, okay, it's empowering again a little bit that they're actually, part of the solution to the problem, rather than, kind of being identified as, part of the problem. So I think, yeah, absolutely, that's great. And
just one comment in favor of that observation, actually. We've been working, in communities in multi-family buildings. When we started the EnergyMeasures project, we didn't have a national definition. Now we have a national definition. According to the national definition, the first 5 income deciles are allocated in the broad energy poverty category, which is quite stable, I'd say. The point is, when you go out there and enter the discussion within the communities, you see that actually they know who are the real households, people that need extended support. They can be identified very easily, especially when you include representatives of the local authorities in the process, which increases the trust in the whole process. And that pays out in much more motivation for engagement in renovation actions, which have to be taken in consensus between all homeowners in that process. So indeed, what was mentioned so far appears to be validated in real case situation, and that's, I think, it's one of the lessons that we can take out of K3s.
Actually, sorry.
Yeah, and it is just to add, I think one element that we found, at least in the project, was that it's a very hidden kind of poverty. That we might go to this beautiful house in Kinsale in Ireland, and right next to the coast, probably a really valuable house in itself, and then you go in and there will be just one other person living there, not being able to put the heating on at all. So from the outside it would look a beautiful house, inside and outside, and then but that person not having any heating because of So that would be probably one of the main challenges.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah, just make sorry. Just make us think about another project initiative also. I think this is a shared problem. Is find them and reaching to them. I was discussing earlier with another colleague that works in a project that's called Well-Based, and they try to link health, housing, and energy poverty. And they found that a good way to identify family is through health services, because the doctors sometimes they go to the houses, they are in contact with people, and they can identify a health situation that's related to a situation of energy poverty or not heating your house enough. And this was a lead for them in the project to engage with this household, so a little bit different from the standards approaches.
Thank you. That's great. And actually, I think that leads on to the next question about how to reach households. would a definition, is a definition possible to try to find who are hard to reach, or are there any thoughts on that aspect? Would anyone like to? I think Trevor, you mentioned something as well. Laura, yeah, you'd like to? Yeah.
No, start, please.
Definition is something very useful when you have to design a systematic approach towards the design of financing schemes. So you need that. You need to be able to define who should be a subject to additional support. But the real thing, as I said, it comes in the interactions with the end users. I can give you some stats which for me are quite I wouldn't say surprising, we expected that, but they're quite illustrative of what is the actual situation. When we started the project, we took, the old-fashioned definition, because we didn't have a definition of if 10% of the incomes of the households are used for energy, they might be in energy poverty situation. According to the statistics, official statistics, all 10 income deciles have expenses for over 10%. So starting from 46% of the first income decile, 46% of the income, to 12% in the 10th income decile. So that definition obviously doesn't work. Then you need to single out the households who are indeed in such a situation. Obviously, those which are below the poverty line has to be a subject of extended support. Then there is the lower middle class, which again comes into the situation that when they pay the energy bills, they are becoming subjects of economic poverty. They cannot afford their regular purchases. So this is how you segment the different parts of the population, and this is how you can design the different instruments. And again, this only comes to the point when you design analysis schemes. When you go to the households, you find that there are still social networks that are operating. And there are still relations within the families, within the broader friend circle that can support families to do things. If they are convinced, if they have the knowledge, it comes to this idea that sometimes between 5 to 10% of all the occupants of our apartments in the residential units do need support. The others have the means, find the means to do it themselves if they are convinced, if they have the knowledge what it would bring them, because they understand that this leaves them out of the risk of energy poverty. So that's the process we have to push and promote in order to be as functional as possible.
Yes, I think that those who are particularly hard to reach are those who are probably not aware of their rights, or those who are not claiming their rights in many different fields. And so if you don't consider being helped as a right or as an option, then you remain alone with your problems. And finally, these people are really hard to reach because they don't, even if you talk to them about the problem, they will not have this immediate reaction that they will say yes, because they want to remain hidden. So I think these are really the hardest to reach. Absolutely.
For me, I just wanted to add up, the definition is quite clear. Of course, it's people that for characteristic or condition may have more difficulties to engage. And a lot of them were mentioned also in the previous presentation, elders, students, low income, low education people. But for me, the real point is why we're working on the hard to reach. Because in the end, the hard to reach, if we know who they are, they become less hard. Meaning that the municipality and normally the local level, I agree with the colleagues at the social services, they know who they are and they know that probably they're not engaged. So it's important to keep an open-minded and awareness about who they are to understand the strategies to how to engage. I always remember I was participating at an event in which the main question was why the money that were available for subsidies were not all spent and why people were not engaging to get it. And soon after, there was a research showing that most of the people in needs are elder, they don't have access to internet, while the subsidies was accessible only online to simplify the things. So there was a question before, and soon after there was the result of probably the reason. So if you start investigating and you know more your target, the goal is, I will not develop a subsidies online if I know I want to tackle elder that don't have connection to internet.
There is perhaps also a risk related to people thinking that that situation is normal. And with the energy crisis, this is something that has been observed by many local actors in France, that following the price increases of energy, they did not have more people asking for help, but less. And so here it's like everybody needs to make effort, and so this is part of the public discourse. You need to reduce your heating. And so those people who are really energy who are not asking for help anymore, perhaps because of that also. And so then how do you reach people if they start thinking that this is normal?
It's a very complex and difficult because again, it's a very specific as well, isn't it, to specific households and how they make the social networks that they have as well, and how if it's okay to talk about being in energy poverty, it makes it easier to find the solutions. Whereas if you don't have that support, that's not something that's very difficult. What you want to say?
Yeah. Just to add a little bit on that topic, I mean, with different perspective. In our pilots, as we need to do co-creation with the households, we also had a barrier that's maybe slightly different. At first, language barrier. So we were doing workshops in the local language. So people that does not speak the local language, they were not possible to join it. And also another question that we have been discussing, that in our pilots we don't have at all any representatives of migrants, illegal people in the countries, or refugees, because they are usually not in the system, they are not eligible to any subvention or any assistance, and now in France even less, with the new immigration policies that are changing. So it's very hard to reach these specific targets that usually are in need of some kind of help in energy poverty situations.
Thank you, good. In terms of low-hanging fruit, do you see any low-hanging fruit with respect to potential energy poverty policies, like improving policies? Is there anything on that?
I can start. Unfortunately, I was reflecting on this question, and my perspective is that there can be, I will not say easy, but more accessible solution. And I think the project we're here for showed how some effort, even that can seem minor, but can have an impact and a change. But in my perspective, energy poverty is such a complex thematic that I don't see really low-hanging fruits. I think I would like municipality to focus more on what it can be a medium, long-term solution effective at the root. We can mention emergency measure, we can mention subsidies, we can mention incentives, but I think in a kind of level we all know that these are not contributing to the long-term solution. So that's unfortunately my sad position.
Yes, because I'm a little bit afraid of the concept of low-hanging fruits when we are talking about improving the situation of the part of the population which suffer from that phenomenon. I remember actually connect in a little bit lighter tone, but the energy crisis of 2022, all the national media were knocking on the door of organization like ours, asking what can we do, how can we decrease our energy bills because the prices are skyrocketing. And is it true that if you don't put your hot pot in the refrigerator, you will save a lot of energy? No, that's not going to fix your budget at the end of the month, absolutely not. But knowing some of these, applying some of these measures that wouldn't bring a lot of savings in the end, disciplines you and challenge your attention towards the more complex and the more difficult measures that really have impact. And that is an impact that you can make. Our latest calculations at current prices show that actually, I was talking a little bit before about the part of the energy cost from the income of the different income groups. And the first three decile groups in Bulgaria has supported 36 and 33% of their income going for energy prices. If you renovate their buildings, you bring that down, so we are checking the exact numbers, to 16, 13 and 11. From 46 to 13, and that's the income of the first decile group. So that's huge. That's something that can save lives at the end of the day. So basically, using these low-cost measures, behavioral measures, to channel the attention and to show to the people what can really be done, I think has the biggest impact that we can search for. And of course, we should do both, starting with the low-hanging, forgetting this term, and moving towards the measures that really matter. Thank you.
Just to add also a few points on that, I joined I'm a little bit pessimistic on that point. I think we are acting on the low-hanging fruits now, and we are seeing much policies happening in the cities that take places with short measures, new business model. But it's a systemic problem, and we need systemic solutions for that. I discussed it earlier also with our policy colleagues from energy cities that question, and we have been telling that actually it's a sufficiency question also. We need not only a city, but as Europe, to reduce our energy demands, our energy needs, then we reduce the pressure on the energy market, and the energy prices are going to go down for everyone, not only for vulnerable households. So we need to act in this balance of the energy market to reduce non-necessary energy consumptions, like all the ads that are illuminated all the night over, all across our cities. That's a huge, important amount of energy going for nowhere.
Yes, in terms of low-hanging fruits, I'm wondering whether it would be feasible to really renovate certain types of building. For example, in the surroundings of Paris, we know that we have concentrations of people on very low incomes who live in collective housing, and sometimes these collective housing units and these co-owned housing units are very big. You have several thousand people living in some of these units. And there are programs which are not reaching their objectives because it's too hard to identify people, and they try to identify people in single-family houses which are owner-occupied. Why hasn't there been an initiative to go to this co-owned housing? Because at least this would have an impact. And I was wondering why this didn't happen for many years. So, because at least there would be an effect on a local group of people, but it would be a strong impact. And then, in terms of another low-hanging fruit, would maybe be those people who are really in demand of being helped, because these are people who can be like ambassadors or good examples in their local areas. So these would be low-hanging fruits because there is already a demand and maybe some externalities or positive effects on others.
Okay. Do you want to say something?
I guess also connected to the probably next question about like some policies. I guess what when I started the energy measures project, I was like, no, if houses are not completely renovated, what are we even doing? Why are we even choosing small cost measures? Or if the systemic changes are not happening, then why are we just going to these individual households? And I still agree that definitely there needs to be systemic changes, and there need to be big renovation programs, because that has the evidence is that definitely that's the way of reaching more savings for sure. At the same time, I did realize to the program that facilitating, I know sounds very wishy-washy, but like the empowerment of people. I mean, for example, things like in a way, like I saw myself and also people in the program being like, no, I cannot be the radiators, because there needs to be an engineer that comes to be the radiators. And then suddenly it's like, no, like I can understand how my house works. It's possible for me to understand how the system works. And then by understanding how the system works, I actually can take a lot more control and then reduce my energy bill so much. Simple things so just like, for example, knowing how my washing machine works. I know that sounds silly, but actually it was very, very important. So also starting from there can be quite valuable. So not only like giving stuff like the measures themselves or the renovation programs, but literally just spending time, like spending hours talking to each other, understanding each other, learning from each other. I found that was one of the things that was the most useful, and that's something that could be low-hanging fruit in certain ways.
Good stuff, yeah. And in terms of the novel approaches, would you say you kind of covered that a little bit there in the response as well? I was asking about what novel approaches to combating energy poverty do you think hold particular promise? Is there, from your own work, I'll ask the panel in general, but from your own perspectives, are there kind of new innovative projects that you see coming on track that actually are showing particular promises? Would any of the panelists like to share any thoughts on that?
I'm not able to identify a specific project, because I think there are quite a lot that were quite successful and adopting different approaches. As said, there is a continuous research, and we also have a couple of projects similar to what Eduardo was mentioning, trying to engage with the health system to identify energy poor. But the specificity at the local level are really different. We are facing from this condition, but we also have, for example, municipalities in Hungary that are still fighting with the people to try to push them to do not use firewood, where firewood that has a completely different connection with air pollution and health. I prefer to say we have a portfolio of possible solutions that are really useful, and it's important to understand where they can have the most impact according to the local conditions. I believe both one-stop shop, energy community, behavioral change, deep renovation, they can all contribute effectively in one way or the other.
Absolutely, I do agree that we have a portfolio of solutions, and as with the low-hanging fruits, there is no silver bullet that would solve the problem. And we need to find the right combination of the tools that we have and the specific site and the specific community. And that's extremely interesting also from a professional point of view, because it brings you to another dimension. It brings you in different technological areas. It's challenging to find the right packages of measures. Now, currently we have a very interesting project, at least from my point of view. We had a certain situation in one of our frontrunner cities, the city of Kabul, which was really familiar, but this September, the local district heating system stopped their service, just stopped it. That's another story. It's not the place here to explain the reasons, but the fact is there. You have tens of thousands of people that depended on the district heating. Well, now they have to find a solution. And what is the right solution? So it's usually not what your neighbor heard or what your third cousin find out that worked well in a certain other occasions, we have to apply some knowledge in order to find it out. And actually with us, the concept came with combination of energy savings measures on the EU level and then energy community based on common investment in heat pump using the existing heating installation. And that had much better economic parameters compared to all typical solutions that most people would come to, which are the gas boilers, which are the individual air conditioners, probably the heat, the wood for heating, and the coal, which is heavens still in our part of the world. But when you apply your knowledge, when we have the sources, the one-stop shops, the consultation centers, the communication channels to explain that to people, then the political will and the local, hopefully also the national level, to support such innovations, then the equation could be solved, and that's the biggest reward.
Well, indeed, but they always say, I think, that politicians are usually about 10 years behind the population in terms of outlooks and views, and I think absolutely agree there. And I think it's just on my own, just listening to you all, I think what you said as well about how it's not just about education, but how you educate, and that you bring people with you. It's not paternalistic or dictatorial. You're bringing people together and you're showing them, explaining how this is how it works. It's not that complicated, and it can make a difference. I think that's a good. It's a kind of nice. It was a nice observation I made there, just and from what you were all saying as well. I think, say, for considering all the ongoing EU-funded work on energy poverty, where do you see the space developing? What do you see kind of the future? Is it going in the right direction? Have you any thoughts on that?
Well, we have seen that energy poverty is taking momentum in all the different topics. I think indeed we are going in the right direction. I mean, it has been appearing in more national and climate plan. They are developing in the article. We should expect probably more in these years. One direction that we are trying to address with our project, or our own existence anyway, as a project itself, is to try to involve more the local level in this feedback process on what it can be done. This, I think, we will see improvements and still working on for the next years.
A positive space for a very negative topic here. So, Director, did you want to say something else?
I don't want to take the floor too often, but yes, one of the tasks of each European project is to send recommendation to the European level of governments. And tackling energy quality and building renovation, I think there is a growing consensus that the weak link is the national level of governance, with policies that are mostly campaigning, that lack continuity and that lack dedication in many cases, and in many cases are targeted to subsidizing energy usage and not investing in structural reforms. So I'm kind of, motivated to say that that has to be changes. We now have certain opportunities. The EPP is coming, even though it's narrowed down in the process of the travels, it gives certain guidelines to the national levels and governments. They have to be followed strictly. And the pressure from the national to the national level should come from many sides. From the European Commission, but also from the local level, from the municipalities, which already understand the benefits of building renovation, also from the media and from different public stakeholders, so that the national level really feels the need to get serious about it and bring these renovation levels from 0 something to the required 3% and move it forward. It's a business case, it can be done, but we don't do it. So I would invest if I was on the place of the European Commission in such interactions targeted to the more motivated national approach. So I would invest in communication campaigns, in media campaigns, in work with the local authorities, in, yes, empowering local authorities. That's a cliche, but it's a very important word to put a meaning in. And the Energy Quality Hub and some other initiatives, the European City Facility, are the examples that can be replicated also in that dimension.
Even that, just in terms of empowering local authorities, it's also a way of strengthening democracy and local democracies and critical thinking for citizens. Absolutely. Did you want to say something there as well?
Yes, it's more a general remark rather than something on EU-funded work, but I think that it's extremely important that energy becomes a topic people talk about, so that they engage with. And so all these approaches which really engage citizens which empower people to do something with energy, either in terms of energy saving or in terms of producing energy. All these initiatives are of course important, and I agree with everything that has been said just now on the importance of the local level, because at the local level decision makers are very aware of the difficulties their populations are facing. And well, designing nice national programs is not enough. Having people at the local level who are involved to help this alleviating this problematic, this is really key, I think.
Yeah. Just adding to that, I think the word feedback is definitely, I agree completely. How is it that, we need to enter into a transition, an energy transition, which then require, moving to electrification, to renewable energies. And how is it that we can only do that if there's local collaboration? The easiest way of meeting demand is to put photovoltaics on houses or home buildings, and the only way to do that is to definitely engage people. So understand that we're moving into hopefully the idea of smart cities where we're feeding back each other energy, resources, funds, information, knowledge, etc. So I think at least that's what I would like to
Just to add also, I think one important point is we had a buzz with the energy crisis about energy poverty. The topic gained momentum. We had to keep this momentum and keep the things rolling on the topic now. And as Donna, I like the term you use, the portfolio of solutions that needs to be. We need to have several types of solutions that are adapted to different contexts. And so the regional authorities, the local authorities, they can come and check what's viable for each one of them. But yeah, I think the topics that the EU is working out, they are relevant and they're interesting, and we need to follow up the energy community, the district level renovations also that allow us to have a different approach, the energy efficiency measures. Everything is useful, but it has to be. The authorities, they have to pick it and compose their own solution that makes sense in their reality.
Well, it is. Do any of the audience have any questions before we draw discussion to close? Yeah, right.
I probably need to use this so it gets recorded. Eduardo, you mentioned health services being engaged in fuel poverty work. I was involved with Energy Gal in the Western Isles for 10 years, and the there was a strategic partnership developed with the local health authority. That worked fine at a strategic level, and the policy was that the local health service would collaborate at all levels to try and ensure that people who had medical conditions that were exacerbated by cold, damp homes would be supported through that strategic partnership with TIC, the local energy agency. However, the NHS refused the health service in the Western Isles refused to contribute financially towards any of the support to help those households, despite the fact that the reason why those particular patients cost so much money was because their cold, damp homes exacerbated the medical condition that sent them to hospital. And it was, they didn't quite understand that if they contributed to making that house more efficient, that householder wouldn't cost them so much money by being in hospital. So anyway, so at a strategic level, they were having to sign, agreements. We will work on this basis, but at an operational level or a financial level, didn't happen. And then equally, we collaborated with local general practices, GPs. And on paper, again, it looked fantastic because the GP practices all agreed for each general practitioner to be trained on energy policy issues and to understand and be able to pick up on some of their patients who may present to them with some of these issues. But the doctors themselves only have 5 minutes per patient to talk to them. So what I'm trying to say is that strategically, operationally, it's often difficult. What we did find very successful was nurses who were practitioners in a very specific field, for example, Parkinson's disease or motor neuron disease. And where those practice nurses supported patients with that particular condition, they effectively understood immediately why tackling energy poverty was important. They also then wanted to become a champion on behalf of their patients and would then advocate on behalf of those patients to receive the additional services for them. So what I think I'm trying to say is that from experience certainly in Scotland, at the different levels, I understood what you said, let's collaborate with health. What I'm saying is yes, and you probably understand this and have seen this on a daily basis anyway.
Yeah, sure. It's very, very relevant because the discussions, it was exactly in that direction. It's not a project that is directly related, but the challenges are the same. Like they see strategically that it's important, but when it goes operationally, the doctors, they have 5 billion and they don't manage. What was working with this project specifically was the doctors that goes to the house, the family doctor that goes to the households, to do consultations with the family. They have more time and they have a more systemic view. It was a way of doing it differently. But the tip about the nurse is very interesting. I would like to read a little bit more about it. It's very nice. Thanks.
Yeah.
Sorry, I want to add to this because it was also mentioned by the colleague. I think, and he mentioned specifically the European City Facility project when we are talking about the fact that the municipality did not recognize the financial advantage that it would have had tackling energy poverty. I think we should also try to move more, instead of working in different projects in cluster, to establish synergies. And I am very happy that a colleague mentioned the 2 projects together that apparently are very different. One project is on developing investment concept and one is on energy poverty. But it's true that if we combine the action and the fact that energy poverty is one pillar of the Covenant of Mayors together with the other climate, it's also emblematic of this. If we try to promote the idea that in the investment concept you are developing for your climate solution, you can take into consideration any analysis you could have done for energy poverty and understand that there can be an economical benefit of addressing energy poverty in advance, we are starting already establishing synergies among projects, and this will try to move from this planning an idea more to an operational application. So it's also from our side, guide the municipality and says, okay, you have these things, now use other possibilities you have through other projects to involve this analysis more effectively.
Yeah, I would fully endorse what Brian is saying. I mean, the one department in any country who can access fuel-poor customers or energy-poor customers is the health board. And basically, there's district health nurses or occupational therapists visiting those houses every day. They're trusted, and they're vocational, and they're professional, and they will tell those households that they can access free services, they can get free information, they can actually get deeper measures done to the house, and that's the main thing is to address the insulation. To address the poor insulation and the poor heating system, inefficient heating system that they have. So it's so important that health boards actually play their part. In fact, EnergyMeasures have working with the age-friendly health project, and Miriam referrals to actually get some of the work done for those people, and this is the way it should be done. The health board haven't got into it, and the main reason being that they're fighting fires all the time. But this is something that all they have to do is give a referral to organisations like ourselves, the EnergyMeasures project, like take on any of the projects here, and that is the start. That they should have been doing that in the past. They were doing it. The health nurses were doing it in the past, and for some reason that's all stopped.
Thanks, Jerry. Thanks for that. Sorry, does anyone want to make a comment on anything that's addressed there? Or if you have any other comments before I close the discussion, I just want to say, personally, thank you very much for sharing your experience and your wealth of knowledge on the topic. It's I'm coming away from the conversation. I'm coming away from the conversation anyway, with a lot to think about. So I really appreciate the efforts coming out, particularly today, because of the weather we have as well. So I think just to say it again, thank you, and it's been a very enlightening discussion. Thank you.